Live from all over this beautiful land, this is the Testosterone Zone with the fine men, Noel, Keith, and Steve. Take it, boys!
And welcome, everybody, to episode 55. This is Noel.
85.
I'm here with Keith and Steve.
Howdy.
And Fred.
Hi.
Hi, Fred.
Everybody.
Hello.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Fred's a little
wasn't awkward at all.
No, yeah, that's me.
This is not. Fred is not shy.
That is
Fred's
sure.
a friend of ours from way back. Went to school with Fred. We're in the Going band with him. And great to have you on, Fred. Welcome.
Yeah, man.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
Appreciate you being on, man.
Appreciate you having me.
Longtime listener and admirer of the show, and just decided to join us. So welcome aboard.
Yeah. Some interesting facts about Fred. He is a father of twin boys. He's bowled 2 perfect 300 games.
Wow.
And which is pretty impressive when none of us have gotten close to that mark.
Yeah.
You're remodeling your home because you enjoy
Torture?
torture.
Yeah.
Yes. Fred is a cancer survivor. I hope you don't mind me saying that.
No, I don't. Thank you.
And
That is awesome.
a fellow Texans and Astros fan, of course, loves our Red Raiders as well as we do. And
While we're watching them beat the Longhorns as we talk.
Amen to that.
and a longtime sufferer as a Tech fan. So he understands cautiously pessimistic just as well as any of us. So,
Absolutely.
so,
Yep.
so Fred, definitely good to have you. So
Glad you're on, man.
tell us about remodeling your home. What were you thinking?
Well, I sometimes feel like we all need to be humbled.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'm glutton for punishment. And there are times I feel like I want to see how far I can push my relationship. If you ever want to get to that point, remodel with your spouse. It's great.
Yeah, I'm sure.
No kidding.
We had some, I live on the south side of Houston, and praise God we didn't flood, but we had some water in. We had a couple of roof vents lift, and I went through Hurricane Alicia on Galveston Island in 1983, and I thought I knew what heavy wind and rain was. That was until I went through a span of about 3.5 hours of Harvey, where we got close to 20 inches of rain.
Golly.
Wow. That's crazy.
I have never heard rain like that, and thought everything was in good shape. Felt pretty good after the storm was even out. I ended up going around, and I was in about 28 different houses in the community, helping people that really went through some bad stuff. So, and felt pretty good. Got to the end of the week after, and one of my sons came out and said, "What's wrong with the ceiling?" And we look up, and it's sagging. I laid out some plastic, and I was going to bring this down as gracefully as I could, and I got up there and it collapsed on me. It was awesome.
Nice.
So,
That's not good at all.
yeah. So, this wasn't necessarily planned, but my advice to anyone is, if you're going through something like that and you have even if it's just some ideas of some things you'd like to do, go ahead and do it. We were at the point of, the first thing that we ended up doing, and I'm very thankful I have a stepdad that's a master electrician, but he's got bad knees, and he came down and we kind of walked through what we wanted to do, and he said, "Man, you want to do a lot." I said, "Well, yeah." He said, "I don't think I'm up to this." And I said, "I'm not asking you to be. I'm willing to do the work. I just want to make sure I don't hurt me or burn the house down."
Two very valid points.
You're right, and that it's up to code. And he said, "Well, if that's all you're looking for, I'll do everything I can." So we put in a bunch of can lights, and we moved switches. We opened up some walls. I mean, at this point, we're already doing sheetrock work, and that stuff gets everywhere. So it doesn't matter how little or how much. If you're going to do it, just do it. So we started there. she decided she would really like smooth walls, not textured walls. So that's been an adventure.
I
And
bet.
once we got the walls done, then we've laid tile and are still laying tile throughout the house. So we've been making some good progress. Been doing a lot. I've learned a lot. One of the things that I've learned, and with people that I've talked with, you're awful brave, and I'm thinking, I don't think I'm that brave. I think what you have to have, though, is you have to understand what you can and can't do, but you also can't be shy. And when we have a resource, among others, but particularly in YouTube, if you can't find it out there to at least look at, these are resources. I feel like, and I'm not knocking any trade because I respect everything that they do, especially having done a lot of it myself. When you have, but there are a lot of people that are just too scared to just take a little leap and see what they can do. One of the first things we did was I actually built some cabinets, and we decided to start in the laundry room. If they look like crap in the laundry room, well, it's just the laundry room.
Mm-hmm.
But if they
Place
came
to
out
start.
good, then okay, you learn as you go. And I can take some of those lessons and apply them to things later. And there are pieces of this that one of the issues that we had was our two back doors weren't covered. The roof line didn't come down far enough. So we've added the patio, and we did contract that out. One of the reasons, particularly in this area, is I need to have it windstorm certified.
Sure, yeah.
That's not necessarily something I'm going to be able to do. But when I had the contractor here, you pick their brain.
Mm-hmm.
Find yourself a resource. And a lot of these people, especially if you take the time, you show an interest, and you get to know
Give them
them,
beer.
they'll volunteer all kinds of information. So, it's a good process. And I just think there's a lot of things that if I were independently wealthy, I wouldn't be doing any of this. But I also know I feel confident in what I can do. And I feel like there's a lot of things that I didn't necessarily believe I could do them, but I was willing to try. And that's my advice to anyone that's got a home project that they're looking into.
I I always think about how fun it would be to buy an old home and fix it up, and my wife and I we watch Fixer Upper and all that other stuff because she's in charge of the TV, and so
How are your new curtains?
we're even on curtain count. We have not grown that count yet since we moved to Anchorage, but thank goodness, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, the demo part looks really fun, and I want that, but then I worry about what my skill set's going to do or not do after we get past the demo piece, and so I'm afraid I'm going to overdo it and then live in a house that's nothing but framed up on the inside, and my wife's going to be mad at me.
That's really what you're afraid of.
But, yeah, that's
Being
exactly
honest.
right.
Now we know.
Yeah.
My piece of advice there, Steve, is the tools do make the difference.
Yeah.
And a lot, the bulk of the cost in any job is certainly the labor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do it, then you still need to invest in the right tools.
Yeah.
Noel, weren't you talking about that there are, I think this is an episode we talked about before, but don't you have places where you can like rent tools in bigger cities?
Oh yeah.
I wish we had that. We had that.
You mean Home Depot?
Yeah.
Do they
Or
rent
like special?
Do they rent
like
tools
special?
out?
Yes, they do.
Oh, I didn't know
Oh
that.
yeah.
Yeah, Home Depot
Definitely.
does. Sunbelt is the big one, I think, that it's in larger markets.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can go rent anything. Like you can rent stuff that you never should be renting and operating yourself without a license. Like people go to trade schools and learn how to operate some of this stuff, but you can just rent it and take it home and
Whatever, right?
Yeah. Like an auger. Like if you need a hole in your backyard, and just go bust out an auger, man, bring it home.
Hey, if you're putting in a fence,
why not?
Yeah, go rent one.
Yeah,
I've done
those
that
are
before.
fun. Those are fun.
Hey, on a completely unrelated note, if you're ever in Vegas and looking for something fun to do, there's a place there called Dig It, and you actually get to drive a bulldozer and an excavator.
That's awesome.
Oh
Oh,
man.
Okay,
That was
that might be
a good
worth
time.
doing. That sounds like fun.
That sounds like fun.
Freddie, you've actually done that?
Yes, I have. That was fun.
Wow.
That would be a blast. I want to do that.
I've heard about this.
Go ahead. I think you're going to think about what I'm thinking about, so say it.
The place in San Antonio where we can drive tanks.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Man, sign me up for that all day.
No
Absolutely,
kidding.
man. You could totally do that.
I'm trying to look it up. Hang on. What's it called? Drivetanks.com. There you go.
Why not?
That's original.
I don't know why it was so hard to find.
What am I going to call that?
The world's
website?
only live fire tank adventure. Drive a tank. Dude, Mancation 2020. Here we go.
Gosh.
There
Could
we
you
go.
imagine this?
No.
They require background checks in advance.
Oh my gosh. You'd think they would have to.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
We no longer only have Molotov cocktail, you know.
Fred, at some point during the construction project, did you ever get asked, are you going to make it all 220? And then your response was, 220, 221, whatever it takes.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Sure.
Because if you didn't, then you lose your man card. You have to drop that joke in there. And then the ultimate question, did you ever have a stud finder? And then the real question,
Yes.
did you point the stud finder at yourself and say, oh, look, I found one? Because if you didn't, then you're doing it wrong.
That's the only one I found.
That's the only one.
There's an unwritten rule about the stud finder that it must be used on yourself before it actually gets used on, the construction project itself. So
that's right. That's right up there when you're using straps to strap something down in your truck. Before you do anything else, you have to thump one and say, that's not going anywhere.
that's true.
When you have tongs when you're cooking, you got to click them about 3 times every time you pick them up. Make sure they work.
That's right. That's right.
It's all part of the fun.
You gotta warm-
There are requirements
warm
to
them.
all this stuff.
Exactly.
Unwritten rules.
That's right.
There's a lot of unwritten rules, but everybody knows them.
Those are some of the top.
Absolutely.
For sure. Speaking of unwritten rules, I know you brought us a story, and there is one unwritten rule about something that should never be dipped in something else. Should we talk about that a little bit?
Well, sometimes material just presents itself.
Yeah.
It does.
Yes.
And you see things, and if there was ever an avenue or a venue that this should have been directed, I thought it's got to be this podcast.
I agree. on Fred Week, no less.
Yeah.
See,
Mm-hmm.
I do believe this is an early entry into the 2019 Testes Awards.
We like this idea. I think you're right.
So
why don't you share with us what's this entry?
This particular story involves a man and a woman that were on a delivery from a Mexican food place. Now, there's a couple of things here that seem a little odd to me, but it's not quite Florida, but it is Tennessee.
Mm.
And in this case, this lady called and she placed her order to said Mexican restaurant for delivery.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the article stated that she added the tip at the time of purchase. Now, that seems a little peculiar to me in that I wouldn't ever tip till they brought me the food. And then based on their delivery, I would tip them appropriately. Well, in her case, she decided that she would add a tip of 89 cents
Ooh,
at the time of purchase.
that's not a good tip.
No.
Oops.
So the woman that was their delivery driver had a friend with her in the car, and they're making this run to this lady's house. And she knew what little tip that she was going to receive for her efforts. So I envision that they were having a conversation about this along the way. And the guy's like, hey, I got something we can do for her 89-cent tip. So he decided to dip his jewels in her salsa.
A tip for a tip.
Now,
Well played, Noel. Well played.
I guess it's one thing to do this, and even maybe to rumor that you did, but this guy was so smart that he said, I'm going to video myself doing this, and then I'm going to post it on Facebook.
Oh my gosh.
What an idiot.
Wow.
So He did. The woman later caught wind of this. I don't know if she saw the video or not. Salsa would burn, you would think.
Yeah.
So she went to the police on this, and the guy actually he has been charged because the police have the video.
God.
And he's facing a felony with up to 15 years in prison for doing this.
Good
Now,
grief.
If he's convicted and he goes to prison, you have to believe, though, that's a story that would get around.
I'd make something up, man. I killed 40 people on a motorcycle while I was, being run down by the police or something. Make something up, man.
If he goes to prison and they find out, he might make somebody a good girlfriend.
That's true.
Right.
Very, very true. Oh my! I just couldn't imagine what would make somebody want to do that.
Or video it even. Or what?
Yeah.
I know, and I've thought back to our days in college, and as has been stated before by other guests of yours, we had some good times. We had lots of laughs, and we did some things we would never want captured on video.
Yeah.
Right.
Not that.
And I am grateful that wasn't so readily available, because that's where we are today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
our Bible studies do get pretty crazy at times.
Did.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They do.
That is so true, man.
Along the topic of leaving tips, so I need y'all's opinion on some rulings here. So when you go to Sonic drive-through or whatever it's called, are you supposed to tip?
I don't know.
I mean the walk from the air conditioned room with 2 bags out to your car and hand it to you in the window? Yeah. I usually do, just because it's the customary thing to do, but if I'm being honest, no, you shouldn't, but I do.
I used to, but then the problem is I pay with the credit card most of the time. And I think if they would have a thing where you could leave it, and the Starbucks take note too. If you put a thing where you could leave a tip while you're doing the credit card, I'd probably do it every time.
Yeah.
But they don't. And so half the time that doesn't happen.
I don't know. You could run into the 89-cent rule again there, Keith.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, it's a different story. You got somebody driving across town to bring me food, and that's a short walk, as you're saying.
Yeah.
I tend to, if I pay cash, I'll let them keep whatever change, and I don't mean that like, oh, here's 5 cents.
Right. There it is. Tremors.
Sorry.
Did Sonic bring back memories?
Always.
Yeah, I mean, it's baffling. Every place you go now has a tip jar, and
it does.
I mean, go to those self-serve yogurt places where you do everything yourself. There's a tip jar there. I'm like, why?
I gave myself great service.
Yeah, like we go to a barbecue place. All you do is you place your order, and they cut your food out for you, and they put it on their plate, and then they ask for a tip. Well, then you go and you sit down on these picnic tables and you eat, and then you clean up your own spot and you leave. And you're like, wait a second, now what?
Right.
I guess I'm paying them to come out there and wipe off the table, maybe? I don't know. It seems like it should be obvious to you, like why you're giving them a tip for something. You know what I mean? Yeah. Are you tipping them for cutting up the meat? Because
I don't get it either. I don't get it.
I do make a practice wherever I am. If the service is bad, and if I'm not going to tip well, I always leave them a note.
That makes sense. I think that's only fair.
Absolutely.
This is why.
Because I also think, and if the manager's coming around, I'm going to be honest. If you want my opinion, I will give it to you, and I may not search them out actively, but at least then I can leave them a note, knowing someone else is probably going to read that note.
Yeah. Makes sense.
We were at my daughter works at a pizza place, and we went there one night. We're eating, and there was a table next to us with we had like 3 little kids, and you know how little kids can just make a disaster out of an area. And these kids, there was chicken, and there was pizza, and there was bread, and just stuff everywhere on the table and under the table and everywhere. And they got up and left, and didn't leave their waitress a tip at all. And we were sitting close enough to her, like, well, I sure did made a pretty big mess. And she was like, yeah, they didn't even leave me a tip. And she said it loud enough that's like several tables around us heard it. And my daughter told me later that there were like 4 or 5 tables that everybody pitched in an extra tip to cover those people's tips. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
So,
That's
but
cool.
it sucks. There's people out there that when clearly they've earned a tip or should be paying somebody a tip to clean up their mess, they don't. That irritates me.
That
Agreed.
is. There are some times where if you're gonna make a mess like that, you should take care of the people who are gonna clean it up after you, so you don't have to do it at home for once.
Yeah, right. And if you can't afford it, then you shouldn't be out eating.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
It's part of
It's a respect
part of the
thing.
meal.
Yeah, it really is.
It is. But I'll say this: when I was at Tech, we were all poor when we were in school, and I left the standard was a $2 tip, and it didn't matter how much the meal was, everybody got a $2 tip, and I felt. Looking back on it, I feel bad. I mean, but I was poor, and so now I kind of make up for all those bad tips I gave by over tipping like the rest of my life. So I know it's not the same people.
Yeah, I get you. Though.
Still, I'm kind of making amends, for.
Well, Noel, you have to
Right.
look at this too from
Right.
the perspective of when we were in college, we weren't eating these extravagant meals either. So that $2
That's
tip was
true.
more in line with what you were buying anyway in most cases.
Right? Yeah,
That's true. That's true.
So absolve yourself.
Yeah, I will. I feel absolved. Speaking of absolved,
Yeah.
we're beating Texas by 20. Which is
Sweet.
awesome. With like 49 seconds
Our
left.
12th man just hit a 3-pointer in the face of a UT defender. That's pretty awesome.
I saw that bank shot too.
It's kind of like what Harden
Yeah.
did in the Celtics the other night, isn't it?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I've got a question for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
What does a panda use to make pancakes?
Was a panda used to make pancakes? I don't know.
A pan, duh.
That's funny.
My whole family just shook their head at me at that joke. By the way, they all.
Did they really?
Progress.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah. So, what do you call a teacher who doesn't fart in public?
Oh, I don't know.
A private tutor.
Oh, that's terrible.
It's a dad joke.
Good
man.
one. Good one.
Guys, I didn't tell y'all. My wife and I went shopping yesterday at the mall, and while we were there, some jerk broke into our car and stole a couple things out of there, and really started irritating me about it. So I'm going to tell you, whoever you are, if you're listening, you stole my copy of Microsoft Office, and I will find you. You have my word.
Oh,
Jeez, man. Wow.
What do you get when you cross an elephant and a rhinoceros?
Elephant. Elephino?
Elephino.
Ah.
That's an old standby right there.
Boom.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So speaking of rim shot, what did the drummer call his twin baby daughters?
I don't know.
And a 1 and a 2.
Oh, nice.
Lord. Jeez.
What did the Hispanic firefighter name his kids?
Who's A and who's B?
Yeah, there you go. Oh, well, tag on.
That will take out.
So I had talking to a friend of mine that works at the hospital. I said, lady was in the labor with her first child, and suddenly she began to shout, shouldn't, couldn't, wouldn't, didn't, can't. The doctor turned and said to the husband, don't get too alarmed. She's just having contractions.
Oh, good one, Keith.
That's pretty funny, man.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. I'm not going to follow that one.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
So, we do have to congratulate Fred, since he's with us, on doing extraordinarily well in the ball pick'em. And picking 11 out of 12 games.
Yes.
So, Fred, I know we owe you a little swag, so we'll be sure to get that to you.
Yeah.
And
yeah, we got a t-shirt coming your way, buddy.
And
Awesome.
on this note,
That was fun.
as we're watching Tech just finish up a nice win over UT, we're just about in the throes of the college basketball season. So we'll be releasing the announcement soon for the Testosterone Zone NCAA basketball tournament bracket. We'll be doing that on Yahoo, or as Keith calls it, Yahoo. And
Yeah.
There's your
So
Yahoo reference.
we will keep that,
It's always gotta
communicate all that stuff through our Facebook page, through Twitter, Instagram, and all the grams and twits and all that stuff out there. So,
And you name
yeah,
it.
absolutely. So looking forward to seeing how big a group we can get on that, to have a little bragging rights for college basketball season.
Sounds like fun.
Absolutely.
Excellent, man.
Steve, I have a guy I work with that came up with it's a fantasy men's college basketball draft, much like fantasy football. It's a snake draft. You get 8 people and you draft teams, and they get points based on the points are determined by their seeds, and you get points through rounds all the way through. And it's a really interesting concept. So a bracket is fun and cool, but this was something else that I thought was a little different and still quite entertaining. And you're stuck with teams you would never pick in a bracket anyway, because you're drafting all 66 teams. Ultimately, you don't necessarily draft the playing games, but you pick whoever's going to, the winner of, you inherit, and you go with the team that the 8 teams you end up with throughout the tournament, as long as they'll go. It's pretty fun.
Sounds cool.
That's interesting.
That's a cool idea.
Well,
I've never heard
nice.
of that before.
This is an exciting time. I mean, you talked last week about the weekend that was for Texas Tech, and there really, to me, there isn't a comparable weekend, but we all were there in the 94, 95 range, and I still have my 6-pack of Dr. Pepper bottles
oh yeah.
sitting here.
Oh yeah.
That was a really special time,
It really was.
and we have longed to come close or try to recapture that. And I mean, it's not up to us. It never was, but it's sure fun to be a part of it.
It really is.
And Kirby Hocutt, it just can't be underscored enough, the job that he's doing.
Yeah.
Agreed. We're glad to have him. I'm excited for the future. It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
And I've heard your discussion with various people over the last few weeks about Matt Wells, rightfully so. And I think everybody has some concern, but then there is this Kirby factor that
he knows things, that he sees things in folks. I guess that's why he's good at what he does. So
to me, he's taken Tech as his own, and that's, you can't ask for more. This is awesome. And Steve, I know you in particular, we look at this like, well, I hope Chris Beard doesn't get a better offer. There were some rumors last week on some Longhorn stuff. I saw this on Twitter that they were like, yeah, he'll look great when he comes back to Austin at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can't worry about the things we can't control. He did say that he's where he wanted to be. And, I love him to death. I love him for him to spend the rest of his career in Lubbock. And I hope that's what he wants to do. But even if he doesn't, we can't lose this moment. I think back to the Astros just before the Verlander trade.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to local Houston talk radio, and one of the guys one morning said, you ever think that you're in the middle of the good times and you really at the moment could wish you could recognize you were? And I held on to that and looked back, especially after what they were able to do. And I see that, some similarity, and I'm not saying Tech, I would love for them to go far, and who would have thought they would have made the Elite Eight last year, but they did. And we're on the same course. So I want to enjoy this for every moment that we can. This is great.
Yeah.
And the fact we're in this moment where it's basketball and it's baseball and it's track and field. I mean, it's all of these things. It's just remarkable to me.
Never thought I'd see this day where everything is clicking.
We're on a run. I hope we can maintain
Keep our
it.
fingers
I
crossed.
think so too. Yeah. Well, man, Fred, we appreciate you being on. This has been a great time.
I've enjoyed it. You guys do a great job. Sorry, I don't know anybody in Louisiana.
We'll get them someday. We'll get them someday.
One of these days.
Yeah, the day that I see Louisiana drop, I'm almost going to be sad because we can't pick on them anymore. So.
Yeah, we'll have to find a new state to rag on.
Yeah, that's right. Mississippi.
Yeah.
What?
We'll just move over a state.
Cool. Well, Fred, thanks for joining us. Looking forward to releasing the Yahoo tournament bracket here in the next couple of days. So keep an eye out for that. Everybody have a great week, and we'll see you all next week on episode 56.
56. Thanks, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Very nice.
Hey, thanks again for listening to the Testosterone Zone. We sure had a blast visiting with you. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe, leave us some feedback, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram.
All Testosterone Zone podcast episodes are written and produced by Noel, Keith, and Steve unless otherwise noted.
The opinions expressed in the Testosterone Zone podcast are our own and not those of our employers, families, parents, kids, dogs, cats, your mom, or any other entity Noel, Keith, or Steve are affiliated with now, in the past, or in the future, or ever.